So this year Nike has actually come up with a new naming system for their Mercurial line. These are both Vapor 12s, except this is the Vapor 12 Elite and this is the Vapor 12 Pro. Now the Elite is the more expensive model and technically better, but the Pro is also pretty good. Is the Pro as elite as the Vapor 12 Elite? I would actually argue yes, it is quite elite. Is it as elite though? That's what we're going to be talking about in this video. So should you go Elite or Pro? Let's find out. Academy. What's going on, guys? Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com. For those of you that were angry with Nike for changing the Vapor from Teijin Synthetic to Flyknit, don't be mad anymore because Nike has given you exactly what you wanted at a fraction of the price of what you're used to paying for top-end Mercurial Vapors. I have for you the Mercurial Vapor 12 Pro. This shoe in its low-cut form factor retails for only $120, and I would argue is actually better quality, better fitting, and just better overall than what we had from the Vapor 11 and the Vapor 10 before that. Again, at a fraction of the price. The Vapor 11, for comparison's sake, retailed for $230, and if you want the model above this, the Vapor 12 Elite, that retails for $250, more than double the cost of this particular shoe. It has a super thin upper, technically not Teijin synthetic, but it might as well be because that's exactly what it feels like. A one-piece construction that we saw on the previous Vapors as well. It even has ACC all conditions control, something that we've never seen on a takedown model from Nike before. So for $120, the fact that you're able to get this good of a shoe is pretty shocking. So if you want to learn everything there is to know about it, breaking down all the tech specs as well as how they fit and feel on feet, please stick around, watch the entire video. And if you're interested in a pair for yourself, I'll leave a little pop-up on screen, or you can click the first link down below. That'll take you to the review page on my website where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes where you'll be able to pick these up below their normal $120 retail price. So while the retail is $120, you can get them for about $106 right off the bat, which again is ridiculous for what is easily as good as any previous top-end Mercurial Vapor that we've ever had. Just so we're all clear on the new name, you can see the tag here. It does have the men's and women's equivalent size, and it is officially called the Vapor 12 Pro. The Pro variation within all the Nike lines is now the first takedown model. So in terms of which model this shoe replaces, in terms of price point, that would be the Mercurial Veloce 3. And trust me when I say these blow those out of the water from a quality standpoint, and those were actually pretty good as well. Starting off with the upper, because that is easily the most impressive aspect of this shoe, especially considering the $120 price point. While it's not officially Teijin synthetic, it might as well be because it feels identical to what we had on the Vapor 11 as well as the Vapor 10 in terms of touch on the ball and just the overall feel when the shoes are either in hand or on your feet. It's a very thin material, and for as thin as it is, it doesn't have any kind of plasticky sensation, which is something you always worry about with these thin types of uppers. I think that's something that's really improved over the years with each new generation of Mercurial, specifically the Vapor. The Teijin synthetic has always gotten softer and softer, and this feels as good as anything we've ever gotten from the Mercurial line. And if we're comparing this to the thickness of the Flyknit upper found on the Vapor 12 Elite and Superfly 6 Elite, I would argue this is just a little bit thinner. Both of them are very raw in terms of not really having any padding to them at all, but this would definitely be on the thinner side in terms of what's out there on the market right now. This is also thinner, I would say, than what we got from the Vapor 11, which I think is a good thing. And the main reason for that is just because it doesn't have the speed rib texturing anymore. You can see that it does have some minor texturing on the upper. If you look close, there's kind of two layers of it. So you have this kind of crisscross pattern, almost like a grid pattern running throughout the entirety of the upper. It just offers a slight bit of texturing on the surface, like a micro texturing, if you will. And then you have these lines that run the length of the shoe, kind of mimicking what you would find on the higher end models as well. That's not super noticeable on the ball. Neither is the micro texturing. All it's really doing is just making sure that the upper is not left completely slick, which it's not. I would say in terms of grip level on the ball, this is very reminiscent of what we got from the Vapor 10 with its Teijin synthetic upper. Also, something that is totally new, we've never seen this before on a takedown model, is ACC all conditions control, your wet control element. A lot of people make a big deal out of this. Personally, I don't really think it does anything at all, but if you've always wanted that feature but could never afford the top end models, you can now get it at the $120 price point, which is pretty crazy. Another carryover element from the Vapor 10 and Vapor 11 is of course the one-piece construction to the upper, even though it's not a Flyknit base. Of course you're going to get a one-piece upper with the Elite models as well. This is a little bit different though. Again, pretty much identical to what we had from the Vapor 10 and 11, with a very slight modification that actually makes a big difference in terms of the convenience and ease of putting these on and taking them off. The laces still run through the middle. It still uses a dual lace hole setup, but you'll notice that the tongue is detached at the top, slightly further down. So instead of being detached at the second lace hole on the medial side, it's now detached at the third. And instead of being detached only on the top lace hole on the lateral side, it's now detached on the second. So the tongue's still not going to slide around on you. It's just detached a little bit further, which means that the opening when you have the laces loosened up gets that much bigger, meaning that they're much easier to put on and take off, but you still get the benefits of a one-piece design. Also, it has this little extension piece here at the front, which I think looks cool. It kind of brings me back to what we had on some of those older OG Mercurial Vapors that had the little fold-over flap. This doesn't fold over, but I think it looks quite good on a low-cut form factor. On the mid-cut collars with the little extension piece, I think it's kind of goofy looking. On the lows, I really like it. It, again, is a throwback to the older Mercurials. Now, like I mentioned, this is the low-cut variation of the Vapor 12 Pro, but there is also a mid-cut version of the shoe, which pretty much has the exact same upper, but it has the addition of a collar, a slightly different heel construction because this doesn't use the same Flyknit Ultra construction that you'll find on the Elite variation, but for 150 bucks versus 120, so basically an extra $30. If you really want the collar, you can get it. And the collar on the Pro this time around is actually Flyknit, unlike what we saw on the Veloce 3DF, which is a nice improvement. It really does feel that much more premium. Video on those coming soon. However, my preference would be the low-cut variation. It's lighter, it's less expensive, and I think from a value perspective, and I guess a true Vapor experience, the Vapor has always been low. I think this is definitely the way to go. As far as the heel is concerned, it does feature an internal plastic heel counter. Again, very similar design to what we've seen on pretty much every single Mercurial Vapor up until this point, especially if we're comparing it to the Vapor 10 and 11. The heel liner is also pretty much the same as what we've seen in the past. It's a synthetic leather, the difference being that they put some perforations in there. I guess for the sake of looks and perhaps a little bit of weight savings, I'm not sure how much weight you're actually saving, but it's got a decent amount of padding and the heel liner is as good as you would expect. As far as the insole is concerned, the insole is of course fully removable. You'd expect that at that price point. You can see it's a neon yellow color, Volt from Nike as they like to call it. Mesh liner on top, so it's technically not a Nike grip liner, although I don't think that makes any difference at all. And you notice it's kind of the same ortholite foam that we saw on the previous generation Vapor 11. So they've actually given us the top end insole from the older Mercurial minus the Nike grip liner. And you can also see they've added some of that texturing on the bottom that you'll also find on that top end Elite model, but it doesn't have the extra insert in the middle of the firmer foam. But you can see that when you remove the insole inside the shoe, it still has the Soleplate base with that same pattern that is mirrored on the base of the insole itself. So the idea is that it kind of clips into place and doesn't allow it to slide around. I'm not sure how effective that's going to be considering that there isn't any kind of firm foam to lock in. Even on the Elite model, I'm not sure if it's the most effective thing in the world, but it is definitely a very cool concept and something that does kind of carry over from that Elite model, again, for a fraction of the price. Another carryover element from the top-end Elite model, which is very surprising considering the price point, is the split sole design and the anatomical sole plate, which I think is the bigger deal here. A lot of people are confused about the split sole design. There is still a sole plate. You can see with the insole removed, it runs the full length of the shoe. So from heel to toe, you still have an anatomical sole plate as a base. The difference between this and a regular sole plate construction, where it runs throughout the entirety of the middle of the shoe, is that the upper just tucks underneath the sole plate as opposed to kind of wrapping on top through the middle, where there's never any studs anyway. So the fact that this is bare doesn't have any impact on traction whatsoever. You just end up with an extra layer of material with this particular design, an interesting choice by Nike, but honestly it feels pretty well identical to what we had on the Vapor 11 and the Superfly 5. Although again, on this shoe, you're getting it at $120, which is pretty ridiculous. The only difference you're gonna find between this and the Elite model is that I think they used a slightly different plastic that isn't quite as light, which you will see is reflected in the overall weight of the shoe, but in terms of overall feel, it feels pretty much identical. And I love having that anatomic base to the shoe, which again would be a carryover element from the Vapor 11. As far as the stud plates are concerned, you have one in the forefoot, you have one in the heel. It's the same kind of plastic, it just doesn't have that wearable finish on the surface, which some people might actually like the look of better. And as far as the stud pattern is concerned, this is of course the firm ground variation, the exact same stud pattern you'll get from the firm ground versions of the Elite models. I think if you're looking for the best possible traction in terms of just a really aggressive feel when pushing off, accelerating, sprinting, quick changes of direction, nothing does that better than the Mercurial line. And again, it's the same exact stud pattern that we saw from the firm ground shoes in the last generation of Mercurials. Excellent stud pattern overall. The only other performance characteristic to talk about is the weight. And I guess if there's a shortcoming here with this particular shoe, which it's hard to fault it for anything considering how much it costs, it would be the weight. In a size 9.5 US, these guys weigh in at 7.4 ounces, which is about 0.8 ounces more than the Vapor 12 Elite in the same size. Again, I only can guess that the extra weight would come from the Soleplate material being perhaps a little bit thicker and perhaps just a different type of plastic that would add weight to the shoe. But as a whole, is it super noticeable when you're actually wearing them? I wouldn't really argue that it is. I feel like the thing that you're gonna notice as a big difference between this version and the Elite version is more so just the overall feel of the upper. This feeling more traditional Vapor, and the Vapor 12 Elite almost feeling more like a variation of the Flyknit Ultra. Again, both of which very, very good. It's hard to say that one is better, they're more so just different. However, it's still a very, very lightweight shoe at 7.4 ounces. There isn't too much to complain about here. If you're looking for that super lightweight, responsive feel on your feet, you're still getting it from the Vapor 12 Pro at its $120 retail price, which again, I'm still so surprised about. Aesthetically, I think these look like a top-end model. Had the Vapor 12 Elite been synthetic, this is pretty much what it would have looked like. The only difference you're gonna find from an aesthetic standpoint is, again, the sole plate doesn't have that finish, which is wearable, and I believe underneath it's black anyway, so that's not that big of a deal. And then you're gonna notice that the Nike swooshes and really all the black elements on the upper, including this BMW M logo on the heel, it's just matte black as opposed to being kind of that multicolor, sparkly black that you'll find on the Elite. Again, not a really big deal at all. And I wouldn't say that these look like takedown models, period. It looks like a high-end shoe on par from an aesthetics and overall shape standpoint to what we've seen from top-end Vapors in the past. So if aesthetics is something you're after at a lower price point, I definitely think that these look quite good. I know not everybody loves the look of the new Mercurials, but for a takedown model, they do not look cheap at all. This could pass as a high-end shoe. Let me know your thoughts on the looks down below in the comments though. All right, so as you can see, I swapped out the stock orange laces, which I actually like better than what you get on the Elite. The Elite ones are a little bit on the cheaper side, with some black reflective SR4U replacement laces, which I think look really cool and accent nicely with all the black bits you have on this particular shoe in this colorway. So if you are interested in a pair of SR4U replacement laces for yourself, the website to go to is www.sr4ulaces.com. There'll be a little pop-up on screen as well as a link down below in the description. So if you're interested in a pair, be sure to go ahead and check that out. On feet, the Vapor 12 Pro reminds me of two specific shoes, and that is the Vapor 10 and Vapor 11. Crazy considering that these are a takedown model. They remind me of the Vapor 10 in terms of the overall shape and way that they fit. It's a really tight fit. Obviously it has a one-piece upper like the Vapor 10 as well, but unlike the Vapor 11, it has a little bit more width to it and slightly higher volume fit, especially through the midfoot and forefoot area. So in that regard, I actually find these to be more comfortable than what we had from the Vapor 11. They remind me of the Vapor 11 in that it does have the anatomic sole plate base, so you definitely feel like you sit in the sole plate slightly rather than directly on top of a flat surface. That really aids in the overall responsiveness of the shoe. In terms of how these compare in terms of fit and feel to that of the Vapor 12 Elite, the Flyknit top-end variation, they're about the same shape, they're about the same width. The difference is gonna be in the feel of the upper. This feels more raw, kind of true Vapor, whereas the Flyknit upper has a little bit more of a softness, kind of sock-like sensation. It's not soft in that it's padded, but it definitely has more flexibility to it, especially once it's broken in. This is going to soften up slightly as it breaks in, but it's never gonna feel soft. It's kind of got that super thin, kind of raw synthetic feel that so many people love about the Vapor, which is why they were upset that the Vapor 12 Elite went Flyknit. Don't be upset, because they've given you a true Vapor here in the form of the Vapor 12 Pro. As far as width is concerned, it's still a Mercurial Vapor, it's still a Mercurial in general, so it has a very tight fit, although definitely wider than what we had from the previous generation. I would say that if you have really wide feet, maybe not a good option for you. The upper will stretch slightly, but definitely not a lot. But I think if you've worn Mercurials in the past, or you just like a tight fit, you're unlikely to have any issues with this shoe at all. Of course, the fit in the heel being low cut feels pretty standard as well, very similar to what we had from the Vapor 10 and Vapor 11. And as far as sizing is concerned, I would definitely say that these run true to size, just like all previous Mercurials have. I'm personally wearing a size 9.5. My foot's about a 9.25, and the fit and the length is pretty much perfect. So if you are looking to order a pair, I would recommend going true to size or sticking with the same size that you wore in a previous generation of Mercurials. So to sum up the Vapor 12 Pro, technically it's a takedown model, but it's not really a takedown model. If you're comparing this to the Vapor 10 or the Vapor 11, I actually think these are better in most ways that you can compare the shoes. I think they fit better. The overall shape of the shoe has been tweaked in such a way that I think is just much more comfortable. The anatomic sole plate is something that carries over from the Vapor 11 as well, which I think is a really good feature. It has that exact same stud pattern too. It's a little bit heavier than what we had from the Vapor 10 and Vapor 11, but in terms of the overall experience that you're getting, especially considering the $120 price tag, not the $200 or $230 that you had to pay for the Vapor 10 and 11, it's pretty shocking that we have this at this particular price point. And really, I think this needs to be viewed as the alternate variation of the top-end Mercurials in the new lineup. I know everybody loves the Flyknit upper on the Superfly 6 Elite and the Vapor 12 Elite, which are essentially the exact same shoe. But I think we need to look at these Pro takedown models as basically your alternate option if you were a fan of the Vapor 10 and the Vapor 11 and just the Mercurial Vapors in general with their synthetic upper. The fact that we're able to get that same quality, if not better quality, at a fraction of the price that we're used to paying is pretty shocking. So do I recommend the Vapor 12 Pro? 100% yes, I do, without question. Buy them. Anyways, guys, that is it for my review. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to support it with a like. Again, if you're interested in a pair for yourself, you can click the first link down below. That'll take you to the review page on my website where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes. You'll be able to pick these up below their normal $120 retail price. As always, if you have any questions, leave them down below in the comments, and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you as soon as I possibly can. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily reviews on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information linked down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. And as always, thanks for watching.